Good morning, everyone. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I'm really, really ticked off about all of it, and we'll get into it. The YouTube show, I think, will be a short one today, and then we'll head over to Rumble. But this whole thing will be on Rumble, probably. Fingers crossed. Okay, what am I frustrated about? Number one, a little frustrated when I logged in this morning. My Canada Poly account is suspended, it seems. I can't log into it on my desktop, so I've got this little banner at the bottom asking me to log in, which I can't really do. Which, not a huge deal. Fine, I guess. It's annoying, but it seems that my Mark Peralvis account is also shadow banned. People can't find it when they search. And my PPC account, PPC Guelph, is also shadow banned. And other stuff that's kind of going on. And what happened yesterday? What happened yesterday is a travesty, right? What happened yesterday is awful, 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 awful. Somebody messaged me a few days ago, and I think I mentioned it on the show, and they said, more lockdowns coming. And I said, well, what more could they take from us? What more can they take indeed? What more can they take indeed? And, well, let's go through it. CP24 just reported on air that Ontario is going to announce restrictions to golf, playgrounds, tennis, outdoor soccer, and camping. Right. Because here's the thing. This shows clearly they had a plan, right? They had a plan. A year into the pandemic, after a whole bunch of the elderly people had already been exposed and or died from this thing, now is the time to close the parks. What? The Crown Land camping, too. They've closed Crown Land camping. This has nothing to do with Agenda 2030 or anything like that. No. We're closing Crown camping because there's a lot of 80-year-olds who go Crown Land camping. They probably portage like crazy. Do you know how many broken hips are as a byproduct of a portaging accident? Yeah, right. Exactly. So this is just for your safety, comrade, right? My goodness me. It's unbelievable what's happening. Doug Ford announces the stay-at-home order has been extended by 2 more weeks. Now in place for 6 weeks. Restrictions on outdoor and recreational activities such as golf and playgrounds will be closed effective Saturday at 12:01 a.m. Right. It's for your safety because, again, after a year, closing the playgrounds is clearly the way to beat this thing. Right? It's not questionable at all. Guess what else they're doing? It gets worse, okay? And if you've been paying attention to this document that was leaked in October, I've talked about it before. The enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as third lockdown, will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including interprovincial and intercity. Interprovincial is happening now. We'll get to that in just a minute. We all have a role to play, says Doug Ford, to protect our loved ones and our communities. That's why a temporary emergency order has been issued to provide police and provincial offense officers with enhanced authority to ensure people follow public health measures to stop the spread of COVID-19. And the responses to this it's a heavily ratioed tweet first, and the responses are... No, I don't think so, Doug, basically. I've stayed home for over a year, barely going out. When I do, I wear a mask. I've done everything I need to do to stay safe, and I will continue to do so. What do I get in return? A police state and failing hospitals because of your incompetence, Doug Ford's incompetence. That's one response that I thought. Ontario locks down because models, which are totally not made by humans, but are made by this AI thing that is smarter than, well, it's really smart. Anyway, it says, if we don't close playgrounds, we're all going to die. Is that about right? Is that about right? Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about playgrounds in the second part of the show as well. I want to talk about stuff that YouTube doesn't like. Dan Kelly, who's the president of the CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, he went on a tweet tirade yesterday. He said, emails pouring in from Ontario business owners concerned with the impact of potential new business restrictions and expanded lockdowns. Here are the main messages I'm hearing from small business owners. They share the concern about rising COVID numbers and hospital capacity. They feel they've already shouldered a massive and unfair portion of the burden of COVID restrictions. Most are at the absolute end of their rope. Any extended or deeper restrictions will result in the failure of their business and financial ruin. Government programs are addressing only a fraction of their losses, and many do not qualify regardless of the harm on their business. I'll note here as well, Dan Kelly keeps pushing for more help from the government. You cannot, and Dan Kelly should know this, you cannot replace an economy with government handouts. It does not work. It is, you run out of other people's money really fast. You run out of the money being printed really fast. An economy has its trade, right? And yeah, some people stack up at the bottom. We've done a good job in Canada at picking those people up if they need to be or want to be picked up. And now we're trying to pick up people in other countries too. It's incredible. It's a never-ending, expanding program that can never be funded properly. And he's sitting here saying, well, if we just had the government give better aid, then this whole closure would be fine. It's been a year. I asked yesterday on Twitter, on this account, on the Mark Parlovas account. I really don't use the Canada Poly account all that much, but on this account, I said, what have you done in a year? How many meetings? How many doctors have you hired to lobby the government? How many times have you met with the medical officers of health in different regions? How many times have you met with the premier? How many times have you met with the health minister? What have you done? Like, what have you done? Have you just said, oh, get takeout? Because that's not good enough, man. Not even close. Anyway, a distribution company shares the spring lockdown was manageable as it was global. He worries a new Ontario distribution lockdown would mean his clients pivot to be served by the U.S. firms. That means that if you're an Ontario business that has U.S. clients and you are not allowed to work to serve U.S. clients, the U.S. clients still need their stuff. They're going to get it from somewhere, and then they're probably not going to enjoy, or they're probably going to enjoy being able to get it from another reliable person in the United States. Why do the interprovincial stuff, right? Or international stuff when they could just get it from somewhere in the States, right? They're destroying the businesses in this country, in this province, for nothing. For nothing. For what gain? They can't even articulate what the goal of this is. We're just going to extend it for another 2 weeks, guys, because reasons. Because Doug Ford thinks so, but it's still not good enough. And we'll get to it's not good enough too. But anyway, Dan Kelly, what has he done? Any new restrictions need to be met with a massive, fresh series of economic supports. There we go. These should be announced the same day and apply to a much broader range of businesses, including those whose customers are affected by stay-at-home orders. What has he done? Oh, you've got to give us stronger economic supports. Yeah. Garbage. What's that going to address? Nothing. Tremendous anger, says Colin DeMello, inside the Ontario PC caucus for some who vehemently oppose some of the new measures that will be announced today. One MPP told their own government they have lost the plot completely. I look forward to that MPP being kicked out of caucus, because otherwise he didn't say it really. He said it in his head, but he didn't actually articulate it, right? Because Doug Ford kicks people out who say things that he doesn't like, right? And if enough people get kicked out, then Doug Ford loses his majority. So where's the spine, guys? They could be angry all they want, but if this continues past Monday, good luck getting reelected. But who's going to take the power vacuum? Is it going to be the NDP? Do you think that, we don't have an opposition in Ontario? There's nobody fighting the fight of Texas is working, Florida is working, Georgia's been open, South Dakota's been open. Nobody's fighting that fight, right? Like, there's no opposition parties who are putting that full-throated argument together. There's not even something that bothers me, and I just maybe it doesn't bother you. It bothers me. We're a year from the election. It's supposed to be June 22, right? A year and a bit from the election. There's no obvious party that is fighting for, just in Ontario. Let's talk about that. But you can talk federally as well. The election could be called any day. I don't know any kind of strategy that's happening. I'm not privy to any kind of inside information for PPC or anything like that, just to be clear about what's going on. But I have not heard or seen any strategy talks. I haven't heard or seen any tweets strategy-wise talking about something specific, crafting the planks or selling the planks of a policy federally. Provincially, I don't see anybody getting a mass gathering of, like, a mass following talking about, we need to end the lockdowns, this is an overreach, the lockdowns don't work, the lockdowns have more costs, have a lockdown cost comparison, right? Like, what does the lockdowns cost compared to the potential cost of lockdowns? Which politician is making the case about having a healthy population locked up based on the ICU numbers and now enforced with police? They're policing the Manitoba border while allowing flights to land in Toronto. It's definitely those Manitobans coming into Ontario for recreation during the pandemic in April that's driving the pandemic in Ontario there, Doug. For sure. Definitely. This data is not questionable, man. It's flawless, right? Like, seriously, do you think that we believe this crap? It's unbelievable. Like, think about it for 5 seconds. How many planes land? How many people are driving in from Manitoba? Right? This is not about what they're saying it's about. And people being angry inside the PPC caucus, or the Ontario PC caucus, PPC caucus, the Ontario PC caucus, means nothing unless they actually do something about it. And if they did something about it, we'd know because Doug Ford would kick them out of caucus. So do something about it, guys. Okay, Ontario is, says Andrew Lawton, raiding offices to ensure no one who can work from home is there, setting up provincial border checkpoints, authorizing police to detain and question people as to why they're not at home, making it a ticketable offense to not answer the above questions. F this, says Andrew Lawton. Yeah, I wonder if he's shadow banned. I guess he's not threatening to take down ropes around playgrounds. Oh no, how dare he? What about the children? Or the elderly who will probably not interact with any of the children who are playing at the park because they're locked in the elderly long-term care homes. It doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. Ontario will also put new checkpoints in Manitoba and Quebec borders to limit travel access. This is the OPP doing this. Okay, I'm going to show you some police stuff as well. And Lou says, I'm sure that we'll get to the root of the problem once we have provincial checkpoints. Just in case you missed it, these are the overseas flights arriving today at Toronto Pearson Airport. And there's 2 pages of these. Each of these flights has at least, let's say, 100 people. Okay? So, and I'm just ballparking here, but if you're landing at Pearson, there's a lot. There's a lot of people. I don't know what the list there that says WTF is, why all those carriers, but whatever. I'm not sure why that is. But that's a lot of flights. Probably more than the cars carrying, those wayward Manitobans who are just coming to Ontario to go Crown Land camping. Those 80-year-olds, they've probably got, kayaks and canoes, right? Probably a tent a motorhome camper, right? Many flights carrying passengers with COVID-19 are still arriving in Toronto as case numbers continue to rise. Nobody's surprised by this. Here it says, new modeling projections say that under weak public health measures, new cases could crest at more than 30,000 a day by early June. With moderate measures, they could range from 10,000 to more than 15,000 via Jeffrey B. Gray. So this is the Globe and Mail. And Chris asks, what level do they say public health measures are at right now, do you think? What do you think? I've got an answer for you. David Fissman, after Ford's announcement yesterday, he says, not far enough. Ford owns this disaster. He has repeatedly refused to do what he needs to do. Elect a clown, expect a circus. And he says he's done. So, I hope that he's not lying. I hope that he's done. I hope he leaves Twitter and never comes back, right? Bye-bye, Dr. Fissman. I hope you're done. Like that Spider-Man comic, Spider-Man No More, and the Spider-Man costume is in the trash can and he's walking away. That's what I hope Dr. Fissman's doing. Except that I like Spider-Man and I don't like Dr. Fissman. Or I liked Spider-Man. Now I don't know. But back in the day when Spider-Man was cool, I liked Spider-Man. Okay, Ryan O'Connor says, what did you want? Tanks in the streets? The sooner we disempower this department, the better off Ontarians will be. U of T Public Health's response is 3 periods. ... It's not enough, Doug Ford. I have nothing to say, but silent indignation, right? I'm so angry with you. If you don't know why I'm angry, then you haven't been paying attention, right? And ridiculous. How ridiculous. Downtown Doctor wants you to know that he's fine if you hide in the forest or golf with your buddies, but he wants you banned from seeing your family, practicing your faith, or arranging care for your kids so that you can try to stay employed. I'm not worried about families going camping, though I do favor restrictions on travel. I'm also not worried about people golfing, though it's hardly essential. What I do worry about is transmission in workplaces, houses of worship, private homes, and childcare centers. How dare you send your kids to private daycare or daycare that's emergency set up so that, nurses can work and such. You know what I think is funny? And I've mentioned this before. The online learning and then the kids who go to emergency care, are they bringing their laptops to online learning? I've heard that they are. And I've heard that they're all sitting in the same room, like at a desk with the laptop, online learning with the headphones on, right? Click, 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 click. And isn't that strange? Isn't that weird that they can do that in a daycare, probably with much less PPE and stuff than in a school where they're supposed to be learning? Isn't that odd? Unions. Unions make a big difference, right? Big difference. Safety. The virus knows unionized workers versus non-unionized workers, right? Here is, so families going camping, etc. This is the response from the London Police Service after being told that they can pretty much do what they want. And we'll get to that in a minute. But here's the letter. The LPSB has serious concerns regarding the potential adverse impact of the constitutionality of the provincial government's expansion of police enforcement of the emergency stay-at-home order. We cannot enforce our way out of the pandemic and would encourage the provincial government to shift their focus to stabilize the health system, ensuring equitable access to vaccines, and following the advice of health experts. So the reason I put this here is because following the advice of health experts, in my opinion, is not the way out of this. It seems like the health experts are full of righteous indignation, and they don't understand what an economy is and what they're doing to the Ontario economy in the broader scale of the global economy by doing what they're doing. They're not helping us. And the numbers that they're using to justify these draconian lockdown measures aren't transparent. It's very hard to understand why the emergency is so high when there are numbers and other things out there in public that make those numbers questionable or make people wonder how they're coming to the conclusions that they're coming to, right? And it's a valid question in my opinion. And maybe YouTube doesn't think so, but whatever. So having the police say we should follow the advice of health experts, I don't know about that. Okay, we have shared our concerns with Chief Williams. The chief has reassured us throughout the pandemic that LPS has prioritized education, engagement, and support for city bylaw enforcement when necessary. The chief has been clear that LPS will not be randomly stopping people and will remain steadfast in their commitment to an equitable and unbiased approach to their work. We will share more information as soon as it becomes available. London Police Service Board. So this is the London Police Service Board media release. Okay, so this is official stuff, and people saying this is problematic when the police are pushing back and saying we don't want to do this. And there's a whole segment on police that we're going to do on Rumble, just a minute. But it's notable. It's worth noting that. Okay. Jennifer C. says, I'm baffled by the thinking that we all need to protect the health and medically vulnerable, while we are not all equally responsible for protecting the healthy educational, emotional, and psychological development of children. Yeah, like what they're doing is just horrendous. It's horrendous. Barrett Wilson says, fascism is here in Canada right now. This is insane. I'm going to play this for you on Rumble. You can go check it out for yourself if you're interested. But the cut here is a scary cut. Remember the graphic novel I've been talking about, and then comparing our world right now to V for Vendetta. This is happening. I don't know if we're capable of stopping this, right? And we don't have the mechanisms in Ontario to recall a government. We don't have the mechanism. The mechanism is supposed to be the check and balance that the MPPs have. And if they walk away from the leader, if they walk away from the caucus, then the leader loses power, and that's meant to be a check and balance. Doesn't seem to be working. Right, everybody seems to be saying, well, it's for your safety. So, we've got to do this. We've got to listen to the medical health experts, and we've got to keep the house building keeping going, and we've got to keep this going and that going, etc. They need to look at a much broader picture. What's going on is frightening. And charter rights. You have a right to leave your home. You have a right. I mean, I was going to look at the charter. Actually, we'll look at the charter in the next one, because YouTube doesn't like that kind of stuff. So it's unfortunate, but it's true. The last story on the YouTube show here is OPP one. The OPP don't seem to mind. The OPP don't have the same concerns that the London Police Board has. The OPP will have members located at interprovincial points of entry by road to screen all vehicles beginning Monday, April 19th, 2021 at 12:01 Manitoba time. Those not traveling for essential reasons will be refused entry. The OPP urges everyone to comply with all restrictions. There are consequences for individuals who choose to defy the emergency orders that are enforced. The OPP will be informing public of charges laid each day on its social media account. They're publicly shaming people. Don't you do this. We will publicly shame you. Interesting. Fines: fail to comply with restrictions issued for a minimum fine of $750. Obstruct authority or individual from enforcing or complying with order receives a minimum fine of $1,000. So if they ask you a question and you say no or something to that effect, you'll get a $750 or $1,000 fine. And they may ask you one question, then give you another fine after asking another question. Like there have been people fined. The owner of one of the hairdresser places, the barbershop, was fined simply for saying he was going to continue giving haircuts. Right? Like that's where we're at. That's the level of enforcement and education we're at. Okay? Scary. Those who host parties or gatherings in violation of regulations can face a maximum fine of $10,000 on conviction. So you'll get a summary, like you'll be summoned to court and they'll have a summary fine and the whole deal. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. I don't know how this is all going to work out. It is frightening what's going on. There is a lot of pushback this time. This is the first time I've seen this kind of pushback. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. Not even like at this point, I'm suspect that anything's going to be enough. I don't think that they care. I really don't. And I mean, you know, looking at Twitter and the shadow bannings and all of that other stuff that's going on, they're actively trying to silence anybody who's just talking about this in a way that's like, you know, this is kind of crazy, right? This is kind of crazy. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. This is the end of the YouTube show. We're going to head over to Rumble. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. Go to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for the newsletter. As I said, I've been shadow banned, and it seems like they don't want us around so much anymore, right? Us being people who speak like I speak, which is, I try to speak truthfully. I don't know. I try and tell you what I think and why I think it, and show you with our current news articles, right? And current things that are happening. So they don't like that so much. So if you like listening to me, sign up at CanadaReport.co for the newsletter, which is still coming, pending. I'm waiting to hear back from Sendy people. So the technology is giving me a little hiccup, but I'm sure I'll be up and running soon. But regardless, the sign up for the email and the show updates, either are. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful